5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Well, hello. Oh, hang on. Let me just pop in a Viagra. Oh, there we go. There we go. Feel better. Feel better. Feel bigger. How are we? Been 2 days now. I don't know what to say because we moan, don't we, about VAR and how bad it is. So can we moan when we haven't got it? Very interestingly, and I hope Tom will pick up on this as well, I saw Kate's tweet over the weekend, X, whatever you want to call it, and she was saying that if you're not going to have VAR, then you should have referees that are used to not having VAR anymore. So you should have, EFL Championship referees, linesmen. That guy, and they put the information up apparently on, and I'm not going to put it up tonight because I don't think it's fair on him because, mistakes happen. But God, how can you make a mistake like that? But apparently he is a registered EFL linesman. Nobody we had last season was as shit as that and made as bad decisions as that. What is going on? This is the FA Cup, for God's sake. This is the Premier Cup competition in the world, we are told. And we have got noddies like that guy running the line. 5 minutes before he made that cock up, he gave a throw-in to Manchester United that the referee had to overrule and give to us. That's how shit he was. It's a joke. The FA, English football, is the laughingstock of the world officially. Run by wankers, officiated by wankers. Talking of wankers, after this show coming up tonight at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a bit of a giggle. Looking forward to that, Tom. I need a smile.
We do, mate. We do. Dearie me.
I mean, I have to say, as you know, as I've told you, my brother-in-law and nephews are Man United fans. Even they didn't take the piss out of me for losing. They knew that they had got away with one, shall we say.
Well, exactly, yeah. And what's bizarre about it, Chris, what you opened the show with there was a very, very insightful way of looking at it, because it links back to the world of technology a bit as well, doesn't it? Because we're moving to a world now where it's all about technology. As soon as something goes wrong with the technology, the people haven't got the skills anymore to deal with it. So that was a mistake. But also, I haven't seen any statements from the FA about how Leicester were pretty much robbed, and it was obvious they were robbed. It's been kind of swept under the rug a bit, which I think is also bad. I'm not expecting anything to come of it. it. But it'd be nice some acknowledgement that they made a mistake, wouldn't it?
It would. And you know what, as well, if it was the other way around, I think we would have been hearing loads of stuff, apologies, and we need to look into it. But because it's Leicester, they can give a fucking shit about us.
No, exactly, mate. Exactly. That is kind of what it is. It's kind of because it's Leicester, it's irrelevant. And hey, look, let's be real about it. From our perspective, the FA Cup isn't the biggest end all this season because it could end up costing us a lot of players if we go too deep and we use too many minutes. But it's important for our season overall to get a good performance and not to have things like this happen. So, and it's for the game in general, Chris. They've got to be doing better.
I understand them not having VAR. Because, and we'll talk about the Plymouth game later on, but if that had happened in the Plymouth game, you couldn't have had it because they don't have VAR available. So I get that.
Yeah. And
you can't have some games in round 4 having VAR and some of them not having VAR. But Ian Wright made the point. It comes back in the next round.
Yeah.
How that works if Plymouth get a home tie, I don't know, because they've obviously not got the camera facilities there. So how that's going to work, I don't know. But let's say it happens to somebody in the next round and VAR, says, oh, no, that was offside. That's taking the piss out of us again, isn't it?
Well, it is.
I understand them, not having it for any 4th round. But then if you're not having it for the 4th round, you shouldn't have it for the 5th, 6th, 7th, and as Ian Wright said, even the final.
Well, exactly. I'd agree with that. And the funny thing is, Chris, is they do have a version of technology in the lower leagues because we have the ball on the line situation for the goal, which has the microchip and whatever else. It doesn't have to follow a VAR process, but there's still a way they could have a system in place, which is already pre-existing by all accounts and can be used to make sure things like this don't happen. So I find it bizarre, really. It's almost like an accidental blind spot for them if we're saying they're being accidentally ignorant, which is being polite, perhaps.
Well, yes. Yeah. I mean, the other interesting thing is, and look, you either like pundits or you don't like pundits. And there's certain ones we like, certain ones we don't like, certain ones we think we know talk a load of shite. As it happens, I think Ian Wright's one of the better ones. As is Roy Keane. Roy Keane says it as is. Now, this is Roy Keane, a Manchester United legend. Let's be honest with you. He doesn't hold back in having a go if he thinks Man United are useless. Loved what he said after the game, which was when fans are saying that there's a big 6 bias in this game, or not just this game, but in the game of football, moments like this prove them right. Maybe I'm not quoting word for word, but that was along the lines of what you were saying. Now, if Roy Keane's coming out and saying that...
Yeah, well, exactly, Chris. And there must be something in it, right? I mean, I've always said there's definitely at least a subconscious bias to the top 6. And it's obvious why it's there. It's because they bring in the max amount of TV revenue for the Premier League. So the reason why is because the Premier League wants to protect its TV deal going up every year. I've said this I'm not sure I said it on this show, but I've said it to friends of mine. I guarantee you, Manchester United, even if they got in a relegation scrap, there'll be a way they get them out of it. The Premier League has no interest in losing Manchester United and losing it to the Championship, because if they do, they're not going to get a good TV deal the next year. So this is the problem, mate. It's too influenced by money. If we had a game where the money was perhaps going to the owners like they want in North American sports, but we had wage budgets, we had structures, perhaps these things wouldn't be as commonplace and the top 6 narrative would end. But I don't see it happen.
No. As I've put there, incompetent officials 2, Leicester City 1. We'll come on to that. Obviously, we've changed the format again because these shows evolve as... and we didn't, start the season with this show, but it's evolving as we go through the season. And, the first hour, basically, of the show is going to be all about Leicester. And we're just going to touch on the other games afterwards. We have to remember to say we are a Leicester channel. I just want to touch on some news here. Ruud van Nistelrooy explains why Leicester City transfer was impossible as late bid rejected. Homegrown winger Casey McAteer was the subject of a loan-to-buy offer from Championship promotion chaser Sunderland on deadline day. Ruud van Nistelrooy said selling Casey McAteer was impossible for Leicester City, with the winger a very important part of the club's survival bid. I don't think there's any way, if we'd have sold Casey McAteer and not brought anybody in, it would. I mean, I just found an old news bit that news story that said selling Tom Cannon would double our spending that we would have for the January transfer window. Well, it did fuck all, did it? But I know some people don't like. I mean, Craig, who does the show with us, doesn't particularly. He's not a fan of Casey McAteer. I actually like the guy. I think he does all right for us.
Yeah, I don't think he's terrible, Chris. I mean, there's still a long way to go with him as well, potentially, isn't there? And the thing is, ultimately, like, I'm glad we didn't sell him because I have no faith in the club being able to sign a player before a January transfer deadline anyway. Every transfer window, especially in January, this happens, and it's a regular thing under John Rudkin. It's very slow. You very rarely get any players in the first week. You very rarely get them in the second. You might have a few turn up at the end, but then we're going to miss out a load of targets. And we're so underprepared, mate. I'm just glad they didn't sell him for squad numbers.
Yes, yeah. We have got a squad gap. Funny you should mention that. And it says here, Leicester City opened a transfer opportunity with 3 players available to sign right now. I don't know if you've seen this at all.
No.
I haven't heard of any of these 3, so I will explain who they are if you have them. Leicester City have only filled 24 spaces in their 25-man Premier League squad. So they do have the possibility of adding a free agent to their Ruud van Nistelrooy ranks. I always get worried with free agents. There was the season when we'd gone bust and we couldn't buy anybody, and we were bringing free agents in. I think it was Nicky Summerby, God rest him. He's not that he's passed as far as I know, but gotta love the guy, was actually playing for nothing because he just wanted to be playing. But the 3 that the Mercury have mentioned, Jason Danier, Belgium international, was released by Al Fateh in Saudi Arabia as the window was drawing to a close. He has a minor injury, which probably makes him favourite for us to sign, and one that will keep him out to the beginning of March. Well, not to be honest, it's February now, isn't it? End of February. So, but needing an immediate replacement and that capacity on the number of foreign players in their squad, Danier and Al Fateh came to a mutual agreement to cancel the centre-back's contract. Centre-back, which we need, and we'll obviously, when we go through the player ratings later, we'll come on to that. If you're being released by a Saudi Arabian club, you're pretty shit. I mean, no disrespect, I don't know the guy. You know, it could be wages, but you're going to be pretty shit if you got a Saudi club releasing you, aren't you?
Well, when he was a youngster, he was a Man City youngster, I believe, this chap, Chris. So I recognise the name. And I believe he had quite a bright future at one point and was looking very good. And then obviously along the way, it's sort of got a bit waylaid. I think he was at Lyon for a bit or somewhere, which obviously all the finances over there have been very difficult, haven't they? So, yeah, I mean, the problem is, like you say, if he's out injured to March, what is the point? Unless we can go, well, long term, we can get him up to speed and get him fit again. But the problem is, if you're bringing in free transfers in January, a lot of the time they've been out of football for 6 months and they're not going to be match fit anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he was only just released in this window, so I'm guessing he might have been having played some time. But of course, I mean, we are now on the 10th of February, so we are only, a couple of weeks from March. But no, it is a good point. The second one of the 3, Mario Rui, after 7.5 years at Napoli and 1 historic Serie A title, Portuguese left-back Rui departed the club on the eve of the January transfer window. There's plenty of talk that the 33-year-old, so age-wise, he's a sort of older one that we're looking for. He could be heading to the MLS. Although, let's be honest with you, with us at the moment, he could be too young for us. Could be now headed to the MLS, but could he be convinced of a short stint in England first? He's not played this season. Oh, here we go. After finding himself totally out of favour until Antonio Conte, and that may mean he would need time to find fitness. But he played 28 matches last season while he was Napoli's starting left-back as they won Serie A 2 seasons ago. He's an excellent passer with the ball and has always chipped in with plenty of assists. But after signing Koulibaly, the right back that plays left-back, and with Ricardo Pierre on his way back, do we need another left-back? Thomas, Christensen, really, Justin, if we're honest. We don't need another one, do we?
Well, the problem is, Chris, I can look at this team as you can and we can go, we need things everywhere, really. But then, actually, if we've only got limited resources, I would say we've already got 2 left-backs in the club that are relatively capable. I mean, no one's pulling up any trees right now in this team, are they? But they're not highlighted as the worst aspects of the team. So I would be like you here. I wouldn't really look at this one too much because we've already got 2 covering players there. But
Indeed. Right, so the third and final one is a gentleman called Samu Castillejo.
Villarreal.
Can't they just sign somebody that's called Ben Smith?
I'm pretty sure this guy wasn't this guy AC Milan?
Yes, he was. Wanted a winger in January, and perhaps the best one out there now, a window was closed, is former, as you correctly said there, former Villarreal, AC Milan and Valencia man, Castillejo. He was fired by Valencia last summer after they failed to reach a mutual agreement on the termination of his contract. He spent last season on loan at Saluzzo in Italy. While he didn't register a goal or assist in 17 appearances, mostly as a substitute, he did rank highly in some metrics in Serie A. Desperate, if we sign him, aren't we?
Well, we could be. I mean, he sounds the best of a bad bunch to me out of the 3 you've offered me, Chris, because I know I've seen him play and he is okay and he can play in the hole and he can play on the wing. So that could be helpful for us right now because that is a place we do have problems. But once again, how fit is he? As soon as you said he got released from Valencia, I immediately went, I bet you that's because Valencia were broke and they wanted him gone because I knew he'd probably command a decent wage then. But then that question comes up again, Chris. I just saw an article this week about, I think it was Lloyd Kelly when he moved from Bournemouth to Newcastle, and the money he got from being a free transfer in his actual wage packet was more than Isaac's on now, which is an insane thing. But that shows you how free transfers work. So while people might look at it on paper and go, well, it's not going to cost a fee, you make up for it in the agent's fees and you make up for it in player salary. So that's my only concern. If he wanted, say, £30,000 a week, I'd be like, yeah, we'll do it to the end of the season, not a problem. But if he wants like 80, which no doubt he was on probably at AC Milan, I think it rules us out completely then.
It does, and again, it's a case of, I guess, how desperate are we for somebody, like you're saying, and whether he will suddenly realise, well, actually, they're offering me 30, it's 30 more than I'm getting now. This is interesting. Somebody posted this in the group earlier on this afternoon, Paul Aldridge, so thank you very much, Paul. Remarkably, it says on this graphic that he sent me, since winning the top flight almost 9 years ago, the Foxes have let 192 million, I'll let that sink in, 192 million worth of talent leave on a free transfer, exposing their lack of long-term planning. Tielemans, Perez, Slimani, Iheanacho, Soyuncu, Silva, Pratt, Mendy, Benkovic even, anything between 12 and 38 million, 192 in total. I go back to, who the fuck is running this club? Ronald McDonald?
Exactly, Chris. Yeah, I said it in the post-match, didn't I? I didn't know it was 192. I guesstimated it 180 million pounds worth of players we let walk at a time when we were in the Brighton format of buying and then selling for profit, or at least selling to keep yourself in the process, right? But let's not forget, that is not the be-all and end-all of it. We lost that money for free. We also then spent out on a training facility on top of that. So you could probably double that. And that's probably why we've been the least spending Premier League club for transfers, I think, now in the last 5 years. I think we've always been the bottom one, even over teams like Luton, which is insane.
It's frightening. It's frightening that, if that was a business, you'd be out of business.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And that's the scary thing about it, Chris. And what is scary to me, it's almost like we kind of got arrogant a bit with Brendan under the end. We kind of didn't really read the room well and trusted in him a bit too much toward the end. And he was the one who basically let these players go. He fell out of a lot of them. I mean, if that's the case, we should have sold them. But we didn't. We held on and waited. And unfortunately, we're kind of facing the consequences of it now, aren't we?
We are. Tony Smith here says Alves was a star for Cardiff at the weekend. That was going to be my next story. Why Cardiff took Will Alves gamble few others would, as Leicester City starlet's debut lauded. The teenager made his first appearance at his new loan club, coming on as a second-half substitute and playing through extra time as the Bluebirds beat Stoke on penalties. Do you know what? I was quite vocal about Ruud van Nistelrooy after on the post-match reaction. I'm going to be again later on today, but just as this has come up, Ruud van Nistelrooy is a bigger bullshitter than Brendan Rodgers ever was. I would probably sooner have Peter Taylor at the club now than Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Oh, that's a statement, mate. My word.
Carry on. A statement, and that's going live on the BBC tomorrow, and Jesus. It will no doubt come back and bite me on the arse. You've got this player here, Alves, who everybody is saying, and be honest with you, as fans, we've probably not really seen enough of him to judge. But he does really well in the youngster squads and what have you, and we don't give him a start. Oh, but what does Ruud van Nistelrooy do now because he didn't get any signings? I'm going to put, and he announces it in advance, I'm going to put a 15-year-old and a 16-year-old. It was Monga and Clark, was it? I can't remember.
I think it was just Monga in the end, Chris. I don't hear the chap even got
but that's the thing. There was two. He came out and announced two. Now, if I was that 16-year-old...
Wasn't it King? Wasn't it King, the striker?
I'm not. It was the second one. Somebody will correct.
Yeah, someone will correct us. It could have been King.
Yeah. But that guy went home and says, "I'm in the squad on Saturday, Mum, and really look." And then he's gone and not even put him in the squad. Now he's a bullshitter. Ruud van Nistelrooy is nothing but a Dutch bullshitter because there's no way. I said beforehand there was no way. All right, there's only the one player there, the Monga, that was in the squad. No way he was going to get on the grass. He had Elvis available to him for 3 months, and he never even smelt the grass. So he was never going to put him on. He is literally like, he's no different. He's no different. He just goes out, says what we want to hear, spouts bullshit week after week after week. He's not even a good manager. He's not even doing it can't even defend himself and say, well, the team I'm putting out is too good to let these players in. No, they're fucking not. The players that you're not putting in are probably, certainly with the youngsters, are too good to be in this team because they're fucking shit. Yeah, bring back Peter Taylor, please.
Well, it's interesting, Chris, because it was looked at on the stats, and I believe Cooper used more youngsters in the early part of the season. I think he used Alves in one of the cup games, didn't he? And all this. So there's been a little bit of an He looked good. And to go back to the original point about Will Alves, mate, he walked into Cardiff this weekend and done what any player like him does. And I've seen him play before. He's got this ability just to drive forward and be quite carefree. And how many times do we watch football matches and go, a lot of players have got a lot on their minds here. And you need that young player like a Bellingham. When Bellingham came through at Birmingham, like he was so carefree, he completely removed all the fear from their game, which was fantastic. And that's what you can get of a good youngster. But this sums it up, doesn't it? Like we were saying before the start of the show, Liverpool went out and played their youngsters. Yes, they lost. One of their youngsters they played was a Leicester City youngster 2 years ago, never played in our team at all. And we went a tribunal fee for. So if Liverpool wanted to play this chap, I know they lost 1-0, but if we'd lost 1-0 and played a load of youngsters in the way they had, I don't think we'd have a bigger problem, would we? So it's a big problem, Chris. I agree.
And I think we have, when the youngsters come on, they're not. Well, all right, they might be a little bit frightened, a little bit scared, but they have a go, which is something that they're probably too young to have this play it back drilled into the brain, But I just want to say hi, to Blue Box Forever from Canada. Tom, that's Tom, by the way. I'm Chris. Tom's from Canada. Apart from that, he's a pretty nice guy.
Well, I've lived in Canada, Chris. I'm not from Canada, unfortunately. I've lived in...
No, excuse me here. I don't want to be pedantic here.
Yeah.
But where did you live before where you live now?
Toronto.
Which is in?
Canada.
So you've come from Canada to the UK?
Yeah, but I was in the Britons first. And to be fair, mate, like let's really get the jokes in early before late night tonight. It might not be Canada in a minute the way it's going. It might be the 51st state. Sorry, guys. I know that's probably a bit too much of a dark joke
Ooh,
now for the moment, but yeah, there we go. Let's go for it.
yes, yeah.
That's a
But
preview for us
both
coming up at 9 o'clock.
options-
Come back at 9 o'clock as well, guys.
Yes, yeah, we have got. It's just that it's the show that doesn't take itself too seriously. But look, let's get into it, shall we? 2-1. Ruud van Nistelrooy. We were not defeated in Fergie time. We are defeated in offside time. Even Amaran comes out and says that it was offside. Look, we've got a lot to talk about, but we'll get this out of the way because it is definitely, without a doubt, the elephant in the room, isn't it? So let's go straight to it. Look, can you please tell me how that is offside?
I can tell you that is offside because the line's straight. I've seen some pictures, Chris, of the Man United fans have done a diagonal line like across, which isn't in a straight line, and I've kind of gone.
I think that's possibly a little bit tongue in cheek.
Yes, absolutely. But I think that's what makes it a funny joke because that's the way the world views it a bit, doesn't it? But yeah, look how horrifically bad this is. I mean,
yeah. And look where the linesman is. The linesman is literally, that's where that end of that line, the top of that line, the linesman's there, I think.
Yeah, he is. He's there. You can see him. He's the black little stood up bit.
Yeah. He's so he's in the right position. Now, like I said in the intro bit, I'm not going to start putting his LinkedIn details up on the screen. If you want to, it's in the group. Somebody's posted it in the group, so I've let it go into the group. But I'm not going to start them. We all do have bad days at the office. I mean, one guy said, "Oh, did he actually say in reply, oh God, have you never had a bad day at the office?" But that's so. I mean, you know, like I say, 5 minutes before that, he'd even got a throw-in wrong.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. I would say, like, I'd like to have an apology from him. I don't understand why these officials aren't allowed to come out and have an apology after the game. I know it makes them look liable, but everyone knows they're liable in this case. We're not looking for anything out of it. We're just looking for an apology. You know, really.
We know they're not going to, and we know they can't replay the game because that just opens up a tin of worms, doesn't it? You know, somebody misses the foul, and you know
they have done it historically before, haven't they? Arsenal, Sheffield United, remember?
Yeah, that was a
controversial goal. Yeah,
yes,
controversial goal. We replayed the game.
But I mean, I do love. There's one Leicester fan has gone and I haven't got it unfortunately in front of me, but he added about 20 blue Leicester shirts between the penalty box and the black line and said, no, obviously it wasn't offside, you know.
Yeah.
And look, I have to say, and I've got to give credit where credit's due here, the goal was offside. Ruben Amaran gives brutally honest verdict on Man United, admits Harry Maguire's controversial winner against Leicester should have been overturned. Now, some guy said, well, it doesn't matter what he says, the game's over. Do you remember Arsene Wenger? I mean, he used to see less than a blind man.
Yeah.
He did not see it. And that's not a very good French accent, but I did not see it. No, I know. I shouldn't be doing that to somebody that's lived in Canada, which is half French.
Would you like to start French speaking for you, Chris?
I made the guy in Hello, Hello, the policeman look like he's good. A ghoul?
We all accidentally do it. We all accidentally sneak into that slightly French way of saying things like Joey Barton, which would be a lot more funny than what he normally does nowadays. We're just typing things, but there we go.
Yeah. But Ruud van Nistelrooy could have come out, not Ruud van Nistelrooy, sorry, Ruben Amaran could have come out and gone, I couldn't see from where I was. Yeah. He actually came out and was honest enough. And yes, it doesn't make any difference to the game, but respect to the guy, because like I say, Wenger wouldn't have said that. Ferguson wouldn't have said that, I don't think. There's not, you know, but fair play to him for coming and saying that. It's I mean, it's not going to change things, but at least it does. But they've got to mean, Kate, I said before, you know, Kate, who's one of the presenters on this channel, came out and said on her X channel, that we should have, because there's no VAR, we should have EFL officials because they're used to not dealing with EFL. Fortunately, if it's the right guy, this guy is actually registered as an EFL linesman.
Oh God.
So, this is the Premier Cup competition in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, Chris. It's bizarre, isn't it? Imagine if the Super Bowl had gone down this way last night. Imagine the uproar. But also, like, let's look at the bigger picture here. This has happened in the Premier League before to teams like Arsenal, famously, to Sheffield United, where it could have actually contributed to them going down instead of Aston Villa. And every time they've swept it under the rug, haven't they? There is a regular pattern here occurring. There is an attitude of, you will do it our way. If we get it wrong, you're going to have to deal with it. Which I think is a big problem for me, because I think that sends a really bad message out to the fans of football clubs and the league, because it makes you seem very much like you're disposable, like it doesn't matter, that the game is run correctly. So I would literally stress to the Football Association, not that they're going to watch this, or the Premier League or whatever else, you've got to start owning it and taking accountability, because I think once this Man City stuff kicks off in a few weeks, we could see all hell breaking loose, and they don't do anything about that either.
Yes, I don't know what's going to, where this will end, to be honest with you. To my mind, it has totally devalued the FA Cup this season. 100%. And whoever wins it, I'm not saying they don't deserve to win it, and good luck to whoever does, but it won't mean anything for me.
Imagine if Manchester United win it.
Well,
if Man United win it, I mean, goodness me. I mean, I don't think they will. I mean, that's the thing coming out. But let's be frank, both teams were pretty turgid on the night. They weren't great, were they, Chris? But imagine if they do go and win it. I mean, I don't understand the law, but I mean, what's to stop a club turning around and going, they shouldn't have won it, they shouldn't have been in it?
Well, I mean, the question is, we have got a very litigious chairman, haven't we? Will they look at this and go, well, you've just cost me money, I'm suing you? Who knows?
And unfortunately, when relationships get difficult, that's what happens in the world now, isn't it, Chris?
Yes. I think the interesting thing is as well is that whether it was handball or not, they gave away the free kick. The referee hadn't given it. Was the and we're talking referee now, not linesman, because I'm sorry, I can't really blame the linesman for that, because he was behind play. It was the linesman's in line. It was his responsibility. But should the referee, or was the referee, swayed by the crowd in giving that free kick?
100%, Chris. Yeah. It's a common thing in football, this, isn't it? It is one of those things where if the crowd is getting up, it takes a strong character to be able to navigate that in a cauldron of noise and the energy that they're facing. Yeah, so I think that probably is part of it. I think it needs to be part of their refereeing training if it isn't already. But it's just disappointing, like you say, because it's the biggest cup competition in the world. I mean, I know the Super Bowl happened yesterday, but like the Plymouth result would have gone worldwide, wouldn't it? Liverpool getting knocked out by Plymouth would have been huge news. And then you look at the way they started the weekend. This was their marquee game on the Friday night. This would have gone live over North America. It'd be Leicester Man United, former Premier League Championship winners, against each other. And it's decided by a goal that isn't a goal. I mean, I'm just shocked by it all, really, mate, to be honest. At the time, I was a bit shell-shocked in the way of, well, okay, it's probably a bit of bad luck, and actually we probably don't need to play an extra 30 minutes. But like I say, the bigger picture, mate, if this happens in the Premier League, and people now are getting very, very tricky and tense about this, especially the Man City charges, which is why I mentioned it. They can't be getting these things wrong anymore. There's too much money at stake. There's too much damage that could be happened to clubs if they get relegated by a dodgy decision. They have to take accountability and get this right.
Indeed. Tony said there, I wouldn't fancy being a linesman, would anyone else? I've actually been a linesman for my son's team, because it's amazing how many parents have an opinion on how their children are playing in a game, and yet haven't got the bollocks to stand up and be a linesman. One person in particular, and I'm going back years, I can't even remember his name. His son was a really, really good footballer. I had trial with Leeds, actually. And yet, he was one of the most vocal on the pitch, but disappeared about 5 minutes before kickoff when we were looking for linesmen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we all used to turn around and went, well, let's call him Bob. I can't remember what his name was. Anybody seen Bob? We used to say, well, we're looking for linesmen, so he's fucked off, hasn't he? He just wouldn't. And then I remember in one game, I was assistant coach as it happened. I was the coach to the manager, the team.
Yeah.
And I'd done me FA training or what have you. And I said, now, as normal, I said, no, I'll do it. I'm not a problem. The abuse I got off the parents of my own team, I'm like, for fuck's sake. I turned around and I said, for fuck's sake, I'm my son's in the same team as yours. Fuck off with your comments. Or here's the flag. Go a pair and do it yourself.
Yeah, it's meant to be a bit of fun as well, really, isn't it? It's not meant to be all serious like that. Yeah, so it's funny how people
One
get
time I actually did throw the flag down and say, well, all right, then you do it. And the game obviously couldn't continue because you needed two linesmen.
And we see this. Yeah, I was going to say, we see this on social media a lot, Chris, don't we, nowadays? Where, like, obviously what happened after the Wolves-Arsenal game. And I know you said, obviously, the linesman in this one. I'll say to every Leicester fan, leave him alone. Don't give him any hassle. It is what it is. We've got bigger wars to fight anyway. But my point is, I think things like this, like the trolling, would stop or would get better if the referees had, at the end of the game, for example, an opportunity to explain and have a podium to stand on and go, I made this decision, I've had a look, I actually got it wrong, but this was my thought process. I think then people would have more compassion and understanding because they view them as more human, which I think is the kind of a big part of the problem here, because these are real people.
I actually spoke to Keith Hackett on this show, and he used to be head of the PGMOL.
Yeah.
And he was a referee Premier League, and he'd done European ties. And apparently the referees were quite happy to come out and explain their decisions.
Yeah.
Managers didn't want them to.
Which sums it up, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Which was basically because they would then have no grounds to appeal.
Got you.
So, it's we can only blame them for so much. But I went, funny enough, because I had a weekend with no shit football to watch because we'd played on the Friday night. I actually went down to my local, one of my local non-league, because I used to actually be involved with Poole Town, which was a non-league team. I was a steward there. But my nephews play for Christchurch FC. It's about the 9th, 10th, 11th tier, somewhere like that. But they're semi-professional, and they've obviously got a referee and they've got a linesman. And yes, we shouted at the referee if he got a little bit, but nothing like, at a big match. It was all done in good humour, come on, referee, and all this sort of thing. I've got to say, the two linesmen at that level were better. So I actually shouted. We were at the side of the pitch, obviously, in the stand, and the linesman was on the halfway line on our side, and I actually shouted at him saying, why the fuck weren't you at Old Trafford last night? Because he was actually having a decent game. But look, I just feel vindicated that we haven't actually been knocked out because we were shit. We got knocked out because the linesman was shit.
Well, Chris, I'll say something. The linesman was shit, but it was still part of the reason we got knocked out was because we were shit. But it's not good because Man United were also a bit shit as well, to be honest.
I was going to say, I think we were made to look probably better than we actually were because Man United weren't. At half time, my brother-in-law was actually messaging because I messaged him before when I saw the team and went, well done on going through.
Yeah. And
he messaged me back and said, I'll take a 2-2. And then, of course, at half time, he actually messaged me and said, yeah, you deserve to be up. We're not in it. But we'll come on to why it changed, because that's another bugbear of ours, isn't it?
Yes.
As to why the game swung. But look, game kicked off. I mean, the starting lineup, I suppose you could go with, I don't know. Well,
Chris, I'm at the point, just to interrupt what you're thinking there, I'm at the point whenever I've seen a lineup for this team now, I'm kind of like, meh, because like no matter who I put in or no matter who you put in, it's always going to be the same. We've got history of this now. You take a Daka out and put a Vardy in, you do an El Canusa in, you put a Benotte in, and it's all been the same, really. It's not really changed too much, has it? So I think we're just all a little bit in that vibration now with meh. Because we just know that this formation is going to be this formation. It'll be a similar players, and we know the level of performance we can expect from them, and it's not going to be enough.
Dakova Reed and AU in the starting lineup. Because the argument is, last time that happened, we won, didn't we?
Well, exactly, Chris. Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing, right? I know Buonotte's had a good spell here and there, and obviously Fatu, who's been out injured, which has been a bit of a shame. I mean, he wasn't fully up to it anyway at the point when he got injured, but he could have got better from there, couldn't he? He had a couple of good games.
Yeah.
But I still look at the bench and go, well, we're going to get moans if McAteer's playing instead of, AU or Thingy, aren't we? We're going to have moans anyway, because we just. And this is why the Will Alves thing caused such a stink, I think, because people have now seen him go on the left wing for Cardiff, and in one game just look like he just really wants to go out there and have a go. And right now, when energy's low, you need a bit of a lift like that. So it's frustrating to see the club, we feel, and the manager making bad choices.
Yeah. Blue Fox says there, great to have Ndidi back. That was the one thing. And I think we'll come back to the back four in a second, but while Blue Fox has said that, that midfield two, Ndidi, Sumari, and it's hard to judge on just this one game, but I think that should be that those two should hold that position while they're both fit and not suspended. They should be the first two names for those positions, shouldn't they?
Yeah, 100%. If I was John Rudkin, guys, just to give you an idea of how different it could be. In January, I'd have quietly gone to the Saudi League and see if they were interested in Harry Winks, because I think you might be able to get 25, 30 million quid out of the Saudi League for him. Give him a nice wage packet because he's played, for Tottenham and he's got a bit of a name. And I would have run with those three and brought in a midfielder, Chris. I would have gone with, like you say, Ndidi and Sumari, always going to be my starting two. Skip can do either or, and then bring in another midfielder. And I think we could have made profit then, but of course the club doesn't think like this.
No, I like Skip. I know, absolutely think Brad thinks he's an absolute 20 million waste of time. I would always be starting Skip over Winks.
So far from what I've seen, I'd agree, because for some reason, Chris, I don't think Winks is a terrible player, but I must be honest here. I think he's Championship level at best, and I think if he went to somewhere like a Norwich or a West Brom in the Championship, he'd be getting player awards every season for them. But the reality is, mate, he didn't make it at Tottenham. If you're not making it at Tottenham, looking where they are right now, not to be mean to the bloke, probably not going to make it at Leicester either, are you?
Fair point. Look, we bought a player in January, didn't we?
Sorry, I was muted there, Chris. I was going to take a quick sip. We did, but apparently he's meant to be a right back. But I think you noticed something at the weekend, which I'll lead you into.
I thought he was a right back. I got my little spherical balls chewed off by a gentleman on Facebook saying, well, on his bio, he's a left back and he's played 40% at left back. He was brought in primarily as a right back. 2 games he's been here that he could have played, he hasn't started either. No. And we had Justin on the right back and Thomas on the left. And look, I'm not as hard on Thomas as a lot of people here are, and I think he did all right in the first half, to be honest with you. But what the fuck is Justin fucking Ruud van Nistelrooy's arse?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Amarin said in the post-match, mate, he said he brought on Garnacho because he knew James Justin was tired, which makes you think if Ruud had done the change where Justin had gone on the left, and then Garnacho, of course, would have gone up against a fresher Koulibaly, would things have been different? Would that one? I mean, it's only one part of a very big game, obviously, but it is worth noting. But I will say something to that as well, Chris, which is slightly contradictory, but is true. I think in the first half of this game, JJ had one of his best performances of the season, maybe excluding Arsenal. I thought he did a very good job, but he did look like he was knackered.
Maybe that was because he was up against a not so good. Was it Drogo on that side that's only just come in? No, it was up against. Up against Drogo. So, but it's funny that one manager can, he's done that, but yet this Ruud van Nistelrooy, look, no, I don't know. I can't see him keep running past Justin because Garnacho changed the game. He did.
And of course, as soon as Ndidi was gone, Chris, that was doubly bad, wasn't it? Because Winks wasn't going to get close to him, was he?
No. And again, Winks must be second in line. So if Justin has a night off from Roger and Ruud van Nistelrooy, Winks is steps. I'm sorry, but it's just pissing me off. How can these players be so fucking awful And in Wink's case, give passes to the opposition all the time. How can they do that and then still get in the team?
Exactly,
Because
Chris.
we have got choices. If Winks isn't that good, skip in. If Justin isn't that good, put Koulibaly in. But no, Ruud van Nistelrooy, he has his favourites, just like Brendan Rodgers did.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And this is the thing. When you're in the Premier League, I said it before, you ain't got time, have you? And if you look at the Liverpool team that lined up against Liverpool, yes, they lost. You look at the Man United team they put out, that's a better example. That right back started, didn't he? And he came off the plane 48 hours earlier. You would have one training session. The manager felt the best idea in the circumstance to get him up to speed is to get him in there and playing it, right? And this is a big problem with Ruud. Like you say, for some reason, he's a very hesitant manager. It's very much like if he gets a half mind to do something, he'll fall back on the safe thing. But the safe thing's been proven to not be safe for us. It's getting us in big trouble. It is getting a bit frustrating now, mate. And since Friday, and obviously we had a couple of days to think about this, I'm not as pro Ruud as I was. I must confess now I've looked into it.
Welcome to my world. El Khanous, look, he's a gem. He's a gem.
Yeah.
And I think, he should be the first name on the team sheet after Mads. The Reed and AU, the argument is that the game before that they did all right, but I just don't think either of them are brilliant starters when you've got Mavididi on the pitch, who didn't even get on, let's be honest with you, and McAteer, who at least attacks people. And you play in two pensioners there. And Daka up front. But I've run out of patience with Daka. And you could argue that, well, he didn't get a chance. He had a couple of shots, so I guess. But, look, Daka cannot play as the sole striker. Vardy cannot play as the sole striker. Nobody we've got. We go into this. Daka got injured, had to come off. So let's bring a striker on. Oh, I'm sorry, the wanker clown that we've got managing the club hasn't put a striker in the subs bench. Why not put a young Monga on? Because he was on the subs bench, wasn't he? But no. Of course, the bullshitter would never put. He just put him on the team just to look good, I mean, he's a fucking clown. Edouard. He might not be impressing in training or whatever, but at least he's a fucking striker. And we're paying him £80,000 a week, thank you very much, for doing fuck all.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it, Chris? Because at that point, I'd put him on the bench for this game and go, well, let's be frank, we end up going that extra time. He can play a load of minutes, and if he gets injured, it's not going to be the be-all and end-all for not playing him anyway. So I found it a bit bizarre. And actually, I think the other youngster that was being looked at for the subs bench was a striker, ironically, which is even more frustrating because he must be obviously be able to get some goals from somewhere down the lower, in the...
Monga scored a great goal, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and it's similar to Will Alves, mate. Will Alves is actually Reading, and
Monga,
then
I can never pronounce. It's Monga. I do apologise if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but he scored that great goal that's been doing the rounds on social media.
It's the sort of goal that made Man City want to reach into their pocket and give us 10 million quid, wasn't it? It was that good, which shows you the effect of these things. But yeah, going back to Daka briefly as well, Chris. I'm like you. I've had enough of Daka now, and the reason partly is because I don't think any manager at this football club's ever going to utilise him in the right way either. Because he's not. Bless him. He's not an intelligent footballer by any means. He can run. He can kick the ball. You need to simplify the game for Daka if you want to bring him into it. We need to be counter-attacking with him like we used to with Ards. If you're not going to play that system with Daka, not going to play two up top with someone for him to bounce off, we might as well have sold him, or we might as well sell him. Because that's my next question, mate, is are we going to be looking in a few years' time of another £100 million worth of players, including Daka, walking? Because right now, how do you sell them when they're this bad, but they're on big contracts as well?
And you've also got to ask yourself, we sold a striker in the transfer window, didn't we?
Still angry about this, yeah. Still furious.
Indeed. No, nobody would buy him. Quite right, yeah. I mean, a lot of people were saying, oh, well, he's not Premier League quality. Well, next season we could be in the Championship. And one thing we do know, Daka's not Championship quality. And Vardy, well, let's be honest with you, unless we wheel him on in his wheelchair and his bath chair, he ain't going to be around next season. Who are we going to have? Who the fuck are we going to have? And I tell you what, One thing that we know Cannon can do, is score in the Championship.
Absolutely.
And people will say, well, he didn't really do it for us. Well, he wasn't given a fucking chance to do it for us. And if you're going to turn around to me and say he's not a Premier League player, next season he could be in the Premier League with Sheffield United while we're stuck in the fucking Championship with a points deduction and a management plan.
Yeah, exactly, mate. It's bonkers, isn't it? Because Harry Kane started off originally as not a Premier League player, wasn't it? And people thought he was going to be no good, and look what happened to him. I'm really angry about this transfer, and I do use the word anger here because to me it is another example of short-sightedness from our people running our club. Because, like you say, if we do get relegated, we're going to face some blooming sanctions in the Football League for one, aren't we? So we're not going to be able to probably spend any money. Vardy's going to probably leave because we don't want to probably keep paying him X amount, and he will probably be gone by then. Daka we're probably going to have to sell because he's useless, and we're going to have to try and get something out of him. And then who've we got? No one now. Whereas Tom Cannon was proven to at least be able to get you maybe 10 to 15 goals in the Championship a season. Different style of striker as well. We've not had the club for a while. The sort of striker that if you're going to buy will cost you 25 million quid normally. So we've given them an absolute bargain. So I'm really angry about this because I'm looking at it going, well, what is your plan if we get relegated then? What is the plan if Ruud ends up going and we bring in a new manager who's got a different vision and now we haven't got a complete forward or a target man?
An answer for you there.
Okay.
We haven't got a fucking plan. This is Leicester City.
And this is why we're where we are, Chris. And this is why the fans are getting angry. And this is the thing which I think the Leicester board need to take on board. And I hope they see this because it's not that we hate Top. It's not that we hate the ownership. We simply are fed up of seeing management issues, which we deal with in everyday life, no doubt, in our workplace and all the rest of it. And we're seeing the insanity of doing the same thing over and over again. I'm seeing an arrogance to it of, well, we've done it before, right, so we'll get it right again. But I'm seeing no positive affirmative action to actually change anything. So I'm that's what annoys me. And every time I come on the show recently, I kind of feel like I'm a broken record because I go, we can talk about the players, we can talk about the tactics, but until we get this crap behind the scenes sorted, we've got no vision of hope for the future.
Yes, yeah. I
clip
literally no. I mean, I before we get very briefly go through the game and then we'll do the player ratings. We look at the club, and look, I love Top for what he's done.
Yes.
I love the fact that he keeps coming in and he keeps paying off all this money, but then it's under his stewardship that we're losing this money. Why is he having to write off 40-odd million pounds worth of debt or whatever it is? It's because we've accumulated that amount of debt under his watch. The FA Cup was probably the dying embers of what his father had left.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and going back to Peter Taylor, when Peter Taylor took over, he took us to the top of the Premier League. We sat at the top of the Premier League for 2 weeks. All right, it was an international break, I grant you. But once Peter Taylor started to do his own thing and bring his own players in, it all started to go wrong. And I feel that in some way, as much as I love Top, is what's happening now.
Yes, agreed.
The good time, you know, the FA Cup was the last embers of, say, what, you know, Vichai had started. But ever since then is where it's all started to go wrong. Now, look, I'm fed up with this one. Look at what he's done. He had a bad time. His dad dies. Everybody's dad dies at some point. Well, I mean, it's not the end of the... I mean, Harry's mother died and all he's gone and... We all have it. Both of my parents died within a couple of years of each other. It happens. Sometimes it's in tragic circumstances. Life has to go on. Yes, he's running this very big company, but then he should be able to turn around and go, the people that are running the club, but if Susan Whelan and John Rudkin were operating a different arm of King Power, would they still be in that job now if they were doing as bad as they are for the club? I very much doubt it.
I very much doubt it unless they'd be in administration by now as a company, probably, Chris. I think in some ways you're right, but also there is a degree of separation I want to apply to what you just said, if you don't mind, and that is that I think Top has every right to be upset with what has gone on because it was a very horrific circumstance. It was a horrific shock what happened, and it no doubt affected I'm going to say not even tens, hundreds of people's lives who are at the stadium, and also in the club itself. There's no doubt about that. But then there comes a time to own that and go, I'm not doing my best because of this, so I need to put someone in charge who is. That is where my problem lies with Leicester City Football Club, because I look at it and I go, we were very good at choosing people to lead us at one point, because we'd had the bad ones like Peter Taylor, who got off to a good start, and then it all ended up, the whole boat capsized and flips over, and we're all drowned, and it's happened so many times for us. And I just think we're at a point now where I just wish Top would own that a bit more, go, I'm trying my best, but I need to bring in someone to run the club on my behalf. I think that is the solution.
Yeah. I haven't said in any of that, in my defense, I haven't said in any of that I want Top out.
No, you haven't, Chris. No.
Out, no.
Neither have I.
And that's the thing. He is not. I mean, we were quite blessed, but when who was the guy that sold it? My mind has gone totally blank.
You mean Mandarich? Yeah.
I looked around then because I've got his signature on a shirt. But
I knew someone who was on trial at Leicester City under Milan Mandarich, the goalkeeper. True story. I knew him. He was at my university, Chris. And he turned up in a full Leicester training kit, and I asked the question. He was on trial there. Yeah. Small world.
But he sold it to King Power, and he stayed, and he gave them a bit of 6 months of his knowledge of running a football club. But has Susan Whelan ever run a football club or before this? What was John Rudkin doing? Has he ever been a director of football before he did this? And, we look at it and say, well, yes, he got some good players in, but it was a different club then. Yeah. We had a different recruitment team. We had, do you know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
But you can't. But I don't want him out. I just want him to put people in the position. I mean, that guy that was at Newcastle, director of football,
Ashworth,
went to Man United. Man United sacked him. I would be beating my way to his front door, sacking Rudkin before I left, going and say, look, here's a blank check, fill it in, come and sort this club out.
Well, it's funny because you and Brad on a show, and it was funny because me and Wayne were chatting about this at the time, said that you'd look at maybe someone like Nigel Pearson as a director of football. And ironically, ironically, the day before, what had I said to Wayne? I said I'd want someone like a Jurgen Klopp to come in, and I choose Nigel Pearson.
Yeah.
So it's so bizarre. I mean, but that shows you what we think about his character. I'm not saying Pearson is the answer. Let's not turn it into a Pearson debate because these things happen. But the point is, Pearson led us to success because of the simple structures he had in place about how you handle yourself, how you are to the club. And it was all about the finer things, which I think are crucial to humanity beyond even football. And he was very good at that. I think we lack that now. I think the inmates are running the asylum, Chris, and there's times it's happened before. But the difference is Vichai would always have the final say. I'm not so sure now Top's so confident making those decisions, which I can understand. But then don't put yourself in that position, Top, because you're going to get abused, mate, and it's not nice for anyone. And we don't want to see it either.
No, 100%. 100%. Very quickly, looking at the match, at least we weren't 2-0 down after 6 minutes.
Progress. Is this progress, Chris, or are we still just circling the drain?
Counted as progress. I think it's, I mean, I was having a laugh with, I'm not sure, whoever was in the chat, and I said, like, hey, we've reached a minute and we're not 1-0 down yet. And then he was messaging me going, like, can we hold on for 6 minutes? Can we so I suppose that is progress. Or either that or Everton are better than Man United. I don't know which. We still got a long way to go, though. We were not Man United, although that was a good first half for us. Man United weren't the best. But you can only play what is against you. And I think if Ten Hag had been in charge, I don't know whether he would have made the changes that Amarin did. But we're not closing down. Indeed, he made a few mistakes, but I'm not going to have a go at him for that. It was his first game back, ring rust and all that. So the fact that he played a couple of ball shorts, a couple of passes short, it's his first game back. It happens. But other players, you should be able to pass the ball from A to B.
Yeah, agreed, mate. Yeah, I think indeed he was a good one to notice there, because the thing I liked about his performance was he was taking accountability, wasn't he? There's times where Harry
Yeah.
Winks, I look at it, is he really taking accountability, or is he slowly creeping back towards Fies and, a Coley and trying to hide a bit, And that's the thing, like I said, we can't have anyone hiding now. If I was the manager right now and any player on that pitch was hiding, aka they weren't willing to put themselves out there, irrelevant if they get things wrong, irrelevant if we make mistakes, then I wouldn't be playing them. That'll be my
No.
minimum now, because it's hard times. You've got to literally have that base thing down now. Just the work rate's got to be there.
Yes. I got through to half time, 1-0 up, unbelievably. Made substitutions at 56 minutes, early for him, for RVN. Look, I understand Ndidi going off. I really do.
I do as well.
First game back, etc. Again, Winks coming on. We lost control of the midfield, didn't we?
Yeah, Chris, it was a turning point that half time, like you say. I mean, the Garnacho sub, which we did nothing to counteract, which is the biggest red flag I could say for Rude so far in a load of yellow flags we've already witnessed, right? Yeah, so that was disappointing in that regard. I mean, I'm still kind of like frustrated, because I still feel at times the players are putting in, or at least certain players are putting in the effort we need to be seeing. I think JJ did. I know JJ's not had a good season, but he's still a second top goal scorer. I can't question his work rate this season. There's times he's been bad, but I can't question his work rate. But then we need to have the manager making the difference up, Chris, don't we? That's the reality of it. If we've got that, but we're not converting that into points and good results, it's so difficult. But I'm getting a bit flaky on him now.
And then I think you and Wayne, or you and Jim were saying, like, I bet Chris has got smoke coming out his ears now, because on comes Koulibaly, and off goes Thomas, who I thought wasn't particularly bad. No. And I thought, all right, James Justin's going to move over to the left back. Koulibaly's going to come on the right back, like you say, go up against Garnacho. No, what did that clown have a manager do? He stuck a right back on at the left back and a left back on at the right back. Now, I don't care if stats say that players can play in different positions. They all have one position that is their main position. Look, Phil Neville used to be the ultimate player that could fill in any gap. And he was sort of, well, what's the saying? Master of none? I can't think what the first line is. Utility man. But there is a saying, you can do a lot of things, but you can't master any of them.
Yes, I know what you mean. It's gone from my head as well.
Yes, James Justin can play right back, just not very well. He's better on the left.
Yeah.
And we had a guy that we'd brought in as a right back, which is his main position, even if he can play on the left. What the fuck is he doing? Left. We might as well have I tell you what, why didn't it actually bring Daka back and put Daka in goal and actually put Madsson Manson up front? That's the equivalent.
Honest to God, mate. I mean, right now we might better spark a lightning strike out of doing something crazy like that. And we need something like a lightning strike to get this team back to resuscitation like Frankenstein, don't we? Because it's like you say, it's a mixed match of bolts going in wrong places, which the manager could be avoiding, but he's choosing to do it. We like Rude. I say we like Rude. I think it's changing a bit. I like him as a person. I like him as a character. I think his principles of what he is good. And I think it's a good example. But the problem is he is young. He hasn't got that experience, has he? And look at Moyes, mate. They ruined us 4-0, didn't they? Look at the difference in management style. Cool.
I'm going to be... I've said controversially, bring back Peter Daler. All right. That is very...
I'm not saying that.
My tongue is firmly planted in my cheek there. However, if Ruud van Nistelrooy somehow manages to keep us up, and I don't think he will, but if somehow he manages to, I think we should still sack him. I don't think he's the guy to take us forward, because you look at what he can do, and after this time, and how many games has he had now? We're into double figures, aren't we?
15 or so, isn't it? Yeah, we're getting up towards playing West Ham again soon, which he started against, didn't he?
He should be starting to get a few things right.
Yeah,
And no
I
matter
agree.
no matter how bad the team is, he should be in the position of starting to actually look at it and go, that isn't working, so I need to try something else. That's what a good manager does. That is why Ruud van Nistelrooy is not a bad manager. Please, everybody, read my piece on the BBC website tomorrow, bbc.com/LCFC, called Fans Voice. I've a lot of what I've said tonight. I can't read it out word for word because that's part of the agreement with the BBC. But a few of the things that I've said tonight are in there, including the Peter Taylor bit and the certainly what I'm about to say is in there. I start off with the question: how is this man still managing our club?
Oof.
I end with the question, the quote: how is this man still managing our club? Dash badly.
Yeah, that is the problem, isn't it, Chris? It's the badly is the problem because people say we're not patient. The world's not patient. I'm sorry. Like, I don't understand what world we think we're living in nowadays. You've got to get up to speed quicker.
Yeah, but you say that, and I agree 100%. But if you're looking at something and saying that is not working, then do something else.
There's two types of football manager in this world, isn't there, Chris? And actually, we've had two of them recently, which are good examples of the opposite. You've got managers like Enzo, who in hindsight for us was probably actually, even though he got us promoted, the worst manager we could have appointed because there was no longevity to that plan if he left, because there was no one you could bring in to do what Enzo does. It's so different. It's what he does. So in some ways, it was a false start that season because we were never going to be able to build on it. It was just, let's throw enough at the wall so we get enough points to go up. And it worked. Brilliant. Never going to work in the Premier League. But the problem is then, of course, with that style of football, you just make the players go and do it. And there's other managers who come in, like David Moyes, who will go, well, this guy needs to be playing in this position and this formation to get the best from him. And that's where we are now as a club. We're not a club that can do things like Enzo anymore. We're not a club like a Brighton anymore. We were at one point, but we've got to stop living in the past, Chris. We need to be able to adjust ourselves and go, right, we're a step back now. So we need something like a Moyes in regard to how we do things. I'll just say to people, go back and watch how they played against us the other week where they won 4-0. The first goal in the first minute, they passed the ball through and went straight past our defenders and they scored.
Yeah.
And that sums up the difference of how we just don't even try and get the ball forward.
I saw a thing on TikTok today, and funnily enough, and it was titled "Comical Defending by Leicester," and it was the fourth goal that Everton scored against us, and it was comical all the way through. But it ended up, and I'm not sure that was probably Vestergaard kicked it against Faze. It rebounded off Faze in front of him and between him and Hermansen, and he just stood there.
Yeah.
Didn't even attempt to run back. Another Leicester player actually ran past him to try and defend it.
Yeah.
I'll come on to that in the ratings in a minute. But yeah, a good manager looks and goes, this isn't working. Winks, you keep giving the ball away, you're passing, I'm going to put Skip in there. And you look at that and go, well, actually, I do like 4-2-3-1, but these players aren't buying into that. So what I need to do is maybe go 4-4-2 or 3-5-2. You need to look at it and go, right, but what can these players, what position are they best in? You've said it to me before. This is Burnley all over again.
Yeah, it is, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I look at this team, Chris, right now and go, if we haven't got money to buy any players, I don't see why we're playing wingers anymore. Because I think we've been proven that our wingers, if we haven't got Fatawu, who's at the best, and maybe if Mavrididi's having a good game, then it's all right. But outside of that, I think they're actually all pretty redundant. I think we'd be better off going to the three at the back, having the wing backs like Justin, who's our second top goal scorer, with the option to bomb forward, and Didi Samare, put someone in the middle like El Kanous. I think then we'd actually have a better chance. But it is a massive departure what we've been playing from, which is the problem. And here's a worrying thought for you, Chris, quickly before you go on. A worrying thought is, if we're playing this formation all the time, he doesn't want to go 5 at the back. Doesn't that show you how much worse we'd be attacking if we did go to 5 at the back, and how bad we are now? That's a concern for me. Is like he probably thinks it could be worse than this.
Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none. That was it. Thank you very much, Passion. That was it indeed. As Joe said, a Justin of all trades. Tony, I agree with Chris. I love the cut of that man's jib. I really do. Thank you, mate. This is a good point. I think Rudy's another Rooney. Yeah. 3-5-3, please, says Joe. The manager can't even build young stars. He's not good enough to handle a Premier League team. The Leicester City, which needs to be developed by a good manager. The problem we've got now is, if he goes at the end of the season, we've got to pay him off. Why don't we employ managers on a rolling basis?
Yeah, it's funny that.
Because we couldn't spend in January because we were paying Cooper off. But not the problem if we sack, and I want him to go at the moment, but we're not going to have, if we do get rid of him, it's going to take money up on that. Look, let's move on because it's we've gone a bit over than I wanted to, but hey ho, we're talking Leicester, it doesn't matter. We're going to go through the player ratings now. All I will say before we do this, guys, is what you're doing later on tonight, 9 o'clock. Come back and see us. We've got a brand new show out. It's called Talking Balls, which you say comes very naturally to everybody on this channel. Certainly to me, yes, indeed. And don't ever think you're going to do that to my balls, Thomas. But that's on at 9 o'clock. We'll do that. Come back to us at 9 o'clock for Talking Balls, late night edition. This is what it is. It is a bit of a drinking thing, that, isn't it? I could feel like raising your flags like,
It's not like Eastern European drinking vibes to this. I feel like I'm in a Siberian sort of place nailing vodka with you, mate. But more at 9 o'clock.
It is actually Russian, believe it or not. And talking to Russian, let's get on with the player ratings. Boom, boom. See what I did there.
We'll make this quick for everyone because it's going to be painful.
Yes, it is. Right, here we go. So the starting 11. Let's have a look at those first of all. Mads Hermansen. Now, we're going to compare this to what Jordan said in the Leicestershire Live, Leicester Mercury. It was obviously at the match. He's still shaking the rust off. His passing was more composed than it was at Everton, but he very nearly dropped a corner into his own net. Committed himself for Hoyland's block shot, the Zerkey goal, and didn't get near Maguire's header. He got a 5 off Jordan.
Ooh. Yeah. I thought I was going to be harsh. What are you going for, Chris?
Oh, you're putting me first, are you, in the...
I should go first. I didn't know you were waiting for... I'll go first, mate. I'll give him a 6. I think he was closer to a 7 than a 5, though, actually. I think that was a bit harsh.
You can go 6.5 if you want.
Okay. Are we allowed to do halves now? Oh, okay.
We're allowing halves now. Yes, we started last week, so...
In which case, 6.5, please, Chris. Put me on for my first half of the day, and I don't normally say that in a pub.
Yeah. You don't know what a half is in a pub, mate. What are you on about?
That is water, just so everyone knows.
I've gone 6.
Okay, we're close.
Did okay, didn't really... And if we're honest, didn't really have an awful lot to do, did he?
No, not really. I mean, I think the stuff which, the offside goal, what can he really do about that? It is what it is, isn't it? I think he was solid. I mean, I think in some ways, if you want to look at low positives, it's a small positive. He's a little bit less rusty for Arsenal.
Yes, yeah. Let 2 goals in, 0. Talking about Arsenal, by the way, guys, we're not doing a watch-along for Arsenal. I'm away in Lanzarote getting some well-deserved sun while you lot are all stood here going rusty in the rain. And I'm just going to have a week off. I approached Brad, but he wants to have time with his girlfriend as well. In fact, he's probably got a better chance of scoring than Daka has. Anyway, let's move on to James Justin. His searching balls to Daka caused trouble for United, and he was solid defensively too for the first 45. But when Garnacho came on, he had all sorts of trouble keeping him quiet. Justin unable to get close enough to stop the Argentinian making the difference. Got a 5 off Jordan.
I'll go for a 6, Chris. 6.
Oof. I'm sorry, you're going to hate me.
What'd you go for?
4.5. 4.5.
I mean, I'm funny with JJ, mate, because I don't want to beat him up too much because there might have been a conversation you're going to have to play out of position for a while here, mate. And I think he's always turning up and putting the work rate in, and he is our second top goal scorer. But I know that's bigger than just one game, don't get me wrong. So I was a bit nicer, perhaps.
Yeah, I know, and I get you. And I always caveat my marks with Justin is that he's not in his natural position.
No.
So, you know, my low mark for Justin is because of where he is, and that's not his fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wout Faye's got a 6 off Jordan. He was forward by Hoyland in one second half moment, but otherwise defended solidly, positioning himself well inside the box to clear crosses when United started to pile on the pressure. His partnership with Akoli seems stronger than with Vestergaard. And funnily enough, Jeff from the Philippines thinks Faze and Akoli are our best 2 starting centre-backs.
I agree. I agree. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, mate. I said I agree with Jeff.
Yeah. And what do you give Faze mark-wise?
5.
5.
It's a usual phase performance, isn't it? Like I say, he's a 5 out of 10. He might get a 6 on occasion, but it's a usual phase performance. But unfortunately, that's the best we got in the team's a 5.
Well, I don't want to ever see him in a Leicester shirt again, so I'm giving him a 4, and I think I'm being generous with giving him a 4. I'm sorry, I have no time for him. Yes, I could be being unfair, and maybe this was one of his better games, but the guy is just taking up somebody else's oxygen, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think there's too much disparity, mate. I mean, I think it's all down to perspective on this, isn't it? Because Man United were poor, so I can get why you'd go low scores because they weren't very good. Yeah.
Akoli. Now, this was actually for me, I'll go for, well, he got a 7 off Jordan. I'm going to agree with him because he was my man of the match. So I'm going to give him 7. I thought he did good. And that save off the line, how the hell did he keep that out?
Yeah, 7.5 for me, Chris. He was my man of the match as well, as you remember. Yeah, he was. I think the nice thing about it is that he was the only real lift from the game for me because we've had a big worry about centre backs, and he came in and really took accountability. That's the word of today for me: accountability. Alongside Faze, he took real accountability. Even though we conceded 2 goals, I was thoroughly impressed by him. I felt he was the best player on the pitch.
Yeah,
7.5.
Yeah, I'm going to change mine. I'm going to give him 7.5 as well.
Fantastic.
And there's a reason for that coming up. But yeah, no, I totally agree. My man of the match, your man of the match as well. And unbelievable that he hasn't been starting.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it, mate? It's so bizarre. I mean, I don't know, the club's a mess, isn't it?
And you didn't tell me that I wasn't changing the players over at the top.
Oh, I'm sorry, mate. I've had a busy day myself. Change it now. I think we want left back.
There we go. Khalib Akoli there. And Tony says here, love the Akoli passion. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, exactly. We need
so next up, there you go. Changed it now. Luke Thomas. His eagerness to intercept passes just got the better of him. He didn't do too badly when he stood up. Drogo and Ahmad, but when he dived in to intercept and missed, he left gaping holes behind him and it began to frustrate Van Nistelrooy. On the ball, he lost a couple of times too. I think this is very harsh. 4 off Jordan.
Yeah, I'll go with a 6. I didn't see as much of that as, but maybe I missed it. Maybe he was that bad. I don't know. But I felt overall he was okay. Actually, I don't think he was any worse than Christensen would have been.
No. He gets a 6 from me as well.
Agreed.
To be honest with you, I think he was fine, and I would have kept him on, and taken off not taken off Justin. How often have I said that? Tony says Luke was brilliant. We have to keep him. Look, he's the player that we love to hate at the moment. Leicester fans like to have a player that they can pile on top of. It used to be Ben Chilwell. Now it's Luke Thomas. For me, it's Wout Faze. So, but he's a squad player, and that's the thing. He's a squad player. Indeed, he gets a 6 off Jordan. There's a lack of conviction in his passing at times. Perhaps understandable after 2 months out. And there were a couple of moments he was just not quite sharp enough to reach a loose ball. You've got to forgive him. It is his first game back, though, Jordan. He is going to be a little bit ring rusty. He still brought a physical presence with his late run and shot to help set up the goal, and he gets a 6.
7 from me, Chris.
Getting a 7 from you. I've gone 6.5.
Yeah, so we're all around the same, aren't we? Yeah, I'm giving him more credit for the fact that I'm giving him an extra point for the fact he didn't go down injured. Thank God. I was so worried he'd get an injury in his first game back.
Well, maybe
Jesus.
that's why Rude took him off. Maybe that's why Rude took him off, thinking, bloody hell, he's not injured yet. Get him off before he is.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's why I'm not so annoyed by the outcome. Don't get me wrong, I'm annoyed by the principle of what Rude's doing, but because it's the FA Cup, he's getting actually a free pass today in some ways.
Yes, yeah. Brad's love child, Sumare. He was too negative on the ball early on, looking backwards too regularly, but he improved quickly, won the ball back for the goal, made some excellent recovery runs to guard, to marshal the edge of the box well, and surge forward from time to time. Gets a 7 from Jordan and gets a 7 from me as well.
I'll go for a 6. I thought he was good, but I think he's had better games. And I kind of want to encourage him to do more of what he's doing. Still, I want to see more, Chris, more.
I still think he gives us that physical presence that we need in the midfield. I mean, yes, indeed, he does stick the boot and he gets in there, but he's a bit of a stick insect, isn't he? Let's be honest with you. And Samari's just that sort of, you wouldn't want to meet Samari down a dark alley.
No, if we could train him up, mate, and get him really going, he could be as. I mean, don't get me wrong, he gets slated for this in the chat. I think Yaya Toure. It reminds me of Yaya Toure, a bigger chap who's very physical, very good at going forward. So that's the best. But we need more from him still. So that's why I went 6. Yeah.
Dakova Reed gets a 5 from Jordan. I'm going to have to give him a 5 simply because he was there for the goal. And at the end of the day, I mean, I don't even think he knew. Almost like it hit him on the head rather than he went for it, but. He got into the position, and that's where you want. And he is, again, he's supposed to be a striker, but if you're not going to get in that position, you're not going to get the goals. And the 2 goals that he's got for us this season, both times it was because he was there. And so fair play to him for that. He gets a 5 from me.
And he gets 5.5 from me. Yeah.
5.5 from you. As Jordan says, he was the man in the right place at the right time.
So well done for him for getting there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, more than Vardy does. Well, I know he did against Atlanta the other week, but let's face it, 9 times out of 10, Vardy's not been there this season. El Canoes, almost my man of the match. I had 2 names written down, a Coley and El Canoes. Somebody, one of the reports said we are going to have a little gem on our hands. The problem is, if we get relegated, I think we'll be selling him. I think somebody will come in with an offer that we can't refuse. And he'll want to go because he won't want to play in the Championship, which is a shame. But I think he plays better when Brunette is on with him. I really do. But I've given him a 7 as well.
I'll agree with a 7, mate. I mean, I think if you want to, from a tactics point of view, it is imperative to me going forward that Rude finds a way to create space for El Canoes. Because if he doesn't, we've got no chance of scoring goals.
Yeah, totally. Jordan Ayew connected well with Daka in particular, and when he wasn't slipping over, he was effective in City's attack. He kept the ball well and made the right choices with his passes too. Gets a 6.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm stuck between a 5 and a 6 on this one, Chris. And sorry, I forgot to tell you to move the thing along, didn't I? Terrible. We've got a late night show coming later. My God.
One job, Tom.
One job, Tom. I'm terrible. I'll go for a harsh 5 because I think he's had better games, but I can't go higher than Dakova Reed because Dakova Reed scored a goal. So 5.
No.
They were very similar.
I'm even going lower. I'm going 4.5.
Yeah, I mean, he's a funny one to read sometimes, isn't he, Chris? Yeah, some people think he's either good, some people think he's awful, like in the chat there.
Well, exactly. Got one both sides of the coin there. I like him, but not as a starter. I think he's one of those that comes on when you're at 60 minutes, when you need to slow the game down. If you're ahead and you need to hold on, he'll get you the free kick just to break play up and give you a rest. Especially if you're under attack a lot, he'll do that and he'll give the defence a break. He's not a starter for me. I could say 4.5. Patson Daka, he got a 6. He was alert to United mistakes, used his pace well and provided decent layoffs to keep City's attack ticking over. But he just wasn't a threat in the box, is what Jordan says, and Jordan's given him a 6.
So on that purpose, I don't know what Jordan said. I give him a 3 because he's not a threat in the box. What's the point in playing him? He's a striker. That was, how angry I got at the end of the game when I saw him strolling up towards the halfway line at the same pace as Route 5. And I was like, you're the centre forward, get up there. So no, a 3 for me, Chris. Now he's annoyed me now. Finally, I think he's got to do more. I'm not taking it.
I've tried to defend him as much as I can.
Me too.
Especially last season. Yep, Tony, you're quite right. Daka is not Vardy. He isn't. And
he's not got the presence.
But we're not playing to his strengths either, in fairness to him.
No, we're not.
And it's the same with Vardy as well. We don't play to his strengths this season. But last season, when we were in the Championship, the reason I was defending him was because of the stick he was taking. Because when Vardy had that awful game against Bristol City, it's Jamie Vardy, so he's had just one off game.
Yeah.
He had a bad game, but you weren't giving him the stick because it was Jamie Vardy, and yet we pile on Patson Daka. But that said, God, I mean, if we weren't playing Vardy, we'd be right up shit creek. Vardy should be the super sub coming on. Vardy should even, be on the bench. But yeah, 3.5 for me. 3.5 for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
we are down. We're down to substitutes now. So here we go. Now, I'm going to say this again. I thought he was a right back, but he gets 4 from Jordan. And I've got to say, that's all he's getting from me. I didn't even notice him when he was on, other than the fact that he was on the wrong side.
I think it's hard to score him because, of course, what Amarin did was he targeted Justin, didn't he? So there was no real attacking play going down this side. I'll be nice to him. I'll give him a 5 because I felt when he came on the right back position the first time, he looked very out of sorts. He looked like he didn't know what he was doing at all. But obviously that was his first go, and it was better. Yeah. So I'll go 5, Chris, because it was better. We need better next time again.
Yeah. Oh God. Happy winks. 5 from Jordan. Kept the ball well when he first came on, did he? But then United's pressure built, he started to make mistakes. Why is this guy still in the team? He was good last season, but we were in the Championship.
Here's the interesting thing about him, Chris. It's in some ways he tries too hard at times, and other times he ends up so deep and he starts playing these daft through balls from so deep and loses it every time, and he puts all the pressure on himself. So I feel like he doesn't help himself. I'll give him a 4 in this game, and I think that's the highest score I've probably going to be giving him, because until he sorts that out, I can't see him being any better than a 4 ever.
I've given him a 4 as well, funnily enough. Casey McAteer turned backwards when he had space to run into and didn't help Justin shut down Garnacho. Didn't affect the game and attack. Got a 4.
Agreed.
Everybody, you're going for 4 as well.
Yeah, chuck it in quick.
Everybody, when they attack with Leicester,
go backward.
Turns back. That's what they're told to do. No wonder we're not scoring goals. It's like Ruth says, don't go above, any further than the edge of the penalty box because we might score a goal. Turn around. I mean, we had one free kick that went from a free kick in that sort of position all the way back to Mads. What?
I said literally, if I was in charge, mate, I'd have fined them all by now if they don't want to pass the ball forwards, and I probably would have sorted out our PSR charges subsequently with the players' wages.
Yeah. Pashan said here, I was initially scratching my head over JJ's and Koulibaly's position. Did Rude make the decision because of James Justin's experience? James Justin hasn't got the experience, Prashant, at right back. He's shit at right back. Honestly, put a traffic cone on at right back and he'd have stopped Garnacho more than James Justin would. I'm sorry.
He would have been onside.
Sorry?
I bet the traffic cone still would have been onside. They don't bloody move.
Yes. Right. The striker that we bought on. Now, it said here, this is what he said, Jordan has said. Barely involved, striker's not his position, but it remains the case that the argument to start him becomes weaker every time he doesn't affect the game from the bench. I've got to stay with McAteer. I gave him a 4.5. Sorry.
That's fine.
He got a 4 from Jordan. I think Jordan is talking rubbish there, personally. It's only my opinion. But in my opinion, I don't agree with him because he was our best player under Cooper. If you cannot get, and he's a World Cup winner.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with Argentina. Now, if Ruud van Nistelrooy cannot get a tune out of Brenette, that says more about Ruud van Nistelrooy's failures as a manager than it does about Brenette's failings as a player. Because when he's played in the right position, he is a game changer. And when we've played him and El Canoes together, they've really looked a threat.
They have, and he's better starting, Chris, isn't he, than off the bench? I think we've seen that now for a few games. And in fact, when you see in tighter games, when we're going to be playing teams like Everton, I think Benotti has to start over Dakova Reed because he's got the feet to get through tight spaces, whereas Dakova Reed doesn't. But if you're playing Tottenham, go for Dakova Reed. They leave space everywhere. He'll run into it and we'll get a goal. But this is the problem, isn't it? Going back to what Prashat was saying, sometimes Ruud's thought processes, we can see why he's doing it, but he's getting it wrong.
Yes, yeah. And is it the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing and getting it wrong every time, thinking it will eventually come right? I mean, I have agreed with him. I don't think he had his best game, so I've given him a 4. But like with AU doesn't start. AU comes on. Brenette starts, doesn't come on. Did I get that the right way around? AU
you did.
Comes on, doesn't start. Brenette starts, doesn't come on, in my opinion. So what are you giving Brenette?
I'll go for a 4 as well, mate. Yeah, he didn't have much time to really affect anything, though, did he? But there we are.
He didn't, in fairness, no. Now then, I wasn't going to do this, and I've got to say that we haven't got anything to go on here because Jordan hasn't done, or he doesn't do a rating for the manager. So, look, I managed to find somebody with a beard as well, just to make it.
Yeah. Right.
I am going to go first with this one because I am giving him 2. And I think I'm being very generous in giving him 2. He picked the wrong starting lineup. He made the wrong substitutes, apart from Ndidi, and I understand why he did Ndidi. Wrong substitutes, off and on. The guy has not got a clue. He cannot change a game. I actually thought during Spurs that he might actually have a plan B up his backside, but he doesn't. And I just don't think he's got a plan A either. And this game totally exposed him. Cooper, I think, would have probably won that game. Or maybe not, though, because of the Manchester United with the offside. But I've given him a 2. And I don't think he is up to doing the job.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, mate. I'll be slightly kinder on this one. I'll give him a 4. The only reason he gets a 4 is because I think first half we generally played okay. But there is now a growing frustration with me of having seen this happen many times and still losing football matches now. And I'm getting a little bit sick of it. So he's down to a 4 for me. And the substitutions were hideous. I think they all were just counterproductive, which is the last thing you need when you're near the bottom.
You did. And like I say, I do understand the Ndidi coming off, but that was ruined by the fact that it was Winks that came on, Right, very, very quickly, let's have a look at some of the other results here. And I have realised that I've not put there what I thought I was going to put there. But never mind. Such is life, eh?
There wasn't a lot of shocks, though, was there, Chris, really, this weekend?
No, just looking down. I mean, fair play. I've got to say, Leeds obviously lost to Millwall. Orient did shock Man City by going ahead, and it was a very good goal.
It was a cut moment.
It was. Ipswich still in it, which is good for us because it means they're playing extra games. Everton are out of it, which is bad for us. Preston won on penalties against Wickham. Southampton are out of it, which is bad for us because we've been writing Southampton off, but I think they could possibly catch us up, and Stoke City with Tom Cannon, they won on penalties after 3-3 with Cardiff City. Oh, sorry, Cardiff won on penalties. Sorry, with Alves. Stoke.
Alves.
It was like a Leicester reunion there, wasn't it?
Yeah, Cannon went Sunderland, didn't he? He's at Sunderland, isn't he? Yeah.
He was at Stoke. That's it. He was.
That's
at
right.
Stoke.
Yeah, Sunderland.
No, he went Sheffield United. He went. Sheffield United.
I get confused between the stripy red teams. There's too many of them in the Championship now. Goodness
you,
me.
You and me both. Stoke, Sheffield United. It's the red and white stripes. We just don't get it, do we? You and me.
No, it's completely anti-Leicester, mate.
Yeah. Fulham got through. Newcastle made hard work of it. 3-2. Brighton, I think, meet Chelsea again this weekend. Beat Chelsea 2-1. Wolves are still in it, which is good news. Look, the last two games there are the two that are really worth talking about, two that I actually saw. Plymouth, I mean, the joy of this, and I'm sorry, I'm actually going to do Lanzarote with my mate on Thursday, and he's the Liverpool fan. And I was sat at his house yesterday watching this, and I'd actually turned to him and went, now you know how I feel, because I have to sit here when Leicester are on, watching Leicester, and you lot, like I said, that's how it feels. Plymouth actually played out their skin. I thought the goalkeeper was the man of the match. He made some absolutely brilliant saves. He was better than Danny Ward. And you've got, I think Plymouth, are they bottom of the Championship at the moment?
They are, Chris. Yeah, they've only won 5 games all season.
Beating the top of the Premier League. I know they didn't. I mean, a lot of people said Liverpool disrespecting the cup, didn't put a strong team out. They had some big names out there.
And they're still, mate, their academy in theory should still be beating Plymouth Argyle. I'm sorry, that's not meant to be disrespectful to Plymouth Argyle, but that is the reality.
No, but you're quite right. You're quite right.
The standard of the Premier League, you know. And but no, credit to Plymouth Argyle. Bear in mind we're a Leicester City fan channel, and obviously I've got more closer ties to Exeter of where I live, so Plymouth aren't as popular really to me as most. But I'll give them a lot of credit because everything they showed on that football pitch is everything I wish Leicester could do right now. That's the biggest credit I can give them.
100 million trillion %. I have not seen a Leicester side this season put the effort and the die-hard attitude that Plymouth put in against. They were literally, putting it off the line. And I've got to say, sign that goalkeeper up, because if we do sell Mads in the summer, which we may well do, all right, it's one game. It's one game. Let's not go over the top. Yeah. Talking of one game, it's more than one game for our Ange, isn't it? He's still there. He's still there. How? Yeah. I don't know. They looked awful in this game. I don't know if you saw it at all.
Yeah, I did see the highlights. They did look they look out of energy, Chris, don't they? I mean, whatever's happened this year of injuries has happened. How much of that is Ange's fault because of his systems and maybe a lack of sports science? We don't know, because that could always be a big part of the problem. But ultimately, they've not been good enough. I'm shocked he hasn't got the push. I really am, because I think they're playing a dangerous game now, trying to hold on. And
I'm sorry, this... And my Man United, my brother-in-law, my nephews were saying, like, with Man United, like, a lot of injuries. Bollocks. Bournemouth had 9 injuries and still went and beat Newcastle and Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, 5-0.
You're a big 6 club. I don't care how many injuries you have.
No, I don't either know, because you should have the academy that's there to bring in players like that. You know, I look at it this way: if I was running one of these clubs, mate, I'd want my B team to be just as good as any team in the first division.
Yeah,
really, I would.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. Right. Just to say to everybody, if you want to follow us on Instagram, and so you like your news in picture style rather than in news style, do what that guy's doing there. Scan that. And if you like it in, and it is a bit quiet at the moment because I am going on holiday, so things are winding down. If you like your news TikTok style, so little video styles, do that one, scan that one, and you can see us on TikTok. I will be looking at, when I get back, I've got about 432 followers on TikTok. I think it's supposed to need 1,000 to go live, but I got a message off TikTok saying you can go live. So I don't know whether they're allowing me going live without the 1,000 followers. I'm a bit confused, but I hope to go live.
They do let some people do it early, Chris, if they notice they got a following and you've got a following from other social media. So I'm not surprised they've given you the go ahead. That's normal, yeah.
So we might have a bit of a play when I get back from. Although having said that, when I get back from Lanzarote, we're straight into the Brentford game.
Big game,
and all I would say is, please next time, Tom, wear a tie.
It's amazing how the AI scrubs me up so well, Chris. I'm literally like that Father Ted character from Song from Ireland, where when he walks on stage, he looks half decent. Round the back, he can't speak. As you know from the
and
green
I
room.
never look that good. I tell you, it's been a while. Tom, thank you very much, sir. Let's go and have a pee and what have you, because we're back in an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
9 o'clock, guys. Talking Balls, the show you didn't know you needed, but it's the show that sets itself very low standards and fails to come up to them. Thanks to everybody for watching. Really do appreciate it. Blue Fox, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm back at 9 o'clock and I'm back at 6 tomorrow, sorry, and that's the last show tomorrow. I will see you at 9, Tom.
I will see you then, mate, and look forward to that one with you. And guys, come back and see us at 9 if you want to see the funny show after all the heaviness of this one. And thank you to everyone in the chat as usual, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, guys. Take care, Tom. Thanks very much. Remember, subscribe, like, and share. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.